welcome to this event. My name is Sirkka Heinonen, I'm Professor of Future Studies, and I have the great pleasure of having our Rector, Kalervo Väänänen, here for an interview. Kalervo Väänänen, we are now celebrating Finland Futures Research Center's 25th anniversary. And I think that the whole University of Turku can be characterized as Futures University. And you, as a professor and rector of the university, you were visionary enough to see the justifications for Finland Futures Research Center to become a department in 2013 inside School of Economics. So I'm interested in asking you this question. When was it that you personally started to appreciate this academic field of future studies as something very interesting, important and unique here?
Well, if you want very exact answer, the 17th May 2012. But if I explain a little bit more details, actually, I started as a rector in the beginning of August 2012, and I decided to spend, if I recall correctly, 4 months actually before that, just to make me familiar with the University of Turku. So I visited all departments, including yours, and then try to, of course, get some kind of idea that what will be the most important things to do during the following months and years. And then gradually, I think during the 2012, when we started to discuss more broadly with our vice rectors and deans, etc., then we came quite quickly actually to the conclusion that if we want to see future studies really to be an important part of the whole university, and also that if we want to be that it is influential as well as it could be, there must be actually more tightly linked to the education. And that was the rationale, and still I had a very strong vision that in the university, more or less all departments had to have a clear connection and a strong link to the basic education. And here with the basic education I mean either the bachelor or master degree education.
Okay, thank you very much. It is very important to know these stories, and you even gave an exact date for this background. And the Finnish Society for Future Studies gave you the Futures Award the following year, so for this kind of academic support. So it was really important. So after Pentti Malaska, you are also pioneering in this academic futures research support. And then, of course, at Finland Futures Research Center, an important part of our academic services is our international master's program, and of course, now also the doctoral program. And our international master's program in future studies has attracted students from more than 20 countries all around the world so far, and many of the students and alumni are here in this event as well with us. I would like to ask you now that, as rector, would you like to increase the annual intake of students to this program? And if yes, as I dare to presume, are there any special countries, regions or continents that FFRC should concentrate on in your view?
Yes, maybe I comment first the last part of the question, and then we come later on to the discussion concerning the quantity. I think that there are two little bit different areas, both in terms of, let's say, policy as well as in terms of geography. I feel very strongly that now the development of Europe and the integration of Europe is at least to some extent at a critical stage. And I feel very strong, I have to say that I'm very strong pro-European. And I think that it is very important duty of the universities to look ahead and also do their best in order to develop the policy in Europe which will enhance peace and well, especially I think peace. And for that, if we look what has happened during the last 20 years, personally I feel that definitely the most important thing the European Union has done has been Erasmus programs. There are tens of thousands of young students who have been visiting other countries in Europe, and I think that that has increased much more understanding between the nations than anything else during the last 100 years or whatever is the time scale. And I think that I feel very strongly that we should still try to enhance and strengthen that type of work. And there I think that sharing the joint vision, or at least to some extent similar vision, already during your studies with colleagues from other countries is very important. On the other hand, I think that it is even as important, and this, let's say, the European dimension, also that we have to include, and it would be very good to have students also from other continents, of course, especially from these, let's say, growing economics like India, Indonesia, China, Southern America countries, etc. So that to some extent, I think all nations want to be selfish. Of course, we want to provide our knowledge and our experience also in this field, and that's why I think that we should be active in also to these other directions and not forget the let's say, our own backyard, the Europe.
Thank you. And so to say, Europe is like the basic pillar, and then there are widening circles. And personally, when I've been teaching in this program, I have enjoyed and appreciate very much this cultural richness of students with different backgrounds. So not only is a program from learning about the future studies, it's a program learning how to work in multicultural context, so on. So now let us turn our look further into the future. And what do you anticipate or foresee to be the biggest challenge or problem for universities in the future? And that applies, of course, for University of Turku, let's say 10 years from now on.
That's, of course, a very difficult question, but I think again we have to go back to the basics, and I think one is very clear, and that is that we know now for sure that after 10-20 years the number of students coming into the universities, I mean the Finnish students, the number will decrease. You know that I think roughly 2000 we had age cohort was still more than 60,000. And if I recall correctly, this year we hardly reached 50,000, which will mean that actually the university, our university structure has been planned roughly about the double size of the age cohort. Because I'm representing the age cohort, this was still 100,000 students. And that would mean for sure that basically there are only two options. The other one is that we will quite drastically reduce the university, which will mean also the number of universities. And then the other option is that we as soon as possible, start to develop policy which will much more than at the moment favor incoming people from different parts of the world, and also including the children and young students, because otherwise I think that is the biggest problem that I can see during the 10-20 following years.
Thank you. It's a real challenge, and based on what you said, University of Turku will probably be more and more multicultural futures university, which has to rethink its own practices and processes. So it's also demanding in that sense. So then about from these challenges and wicked problems, I would like to push our discussion further into preferable futures, because in future studies we have three kinds of futures: possible futures, probable futures and preferred futures. So I'd like to ask about this preferred future. What will be the most desirable, that is preferred future role for University of Turku in society in the future, let's say 25 years from now, so a little bit further ahead?
Yeah, it's probably nobody remember what I answered, so I can speak freely. Well, I think that at least at the moment, I think that, and still I think that in 20-25 years, it would be preferable if we have a multidisciplinary university. I don't think that the connection of different science fields and disciplines disappears during the time. On the contrary, I think that we are facing more and more demand, not only by the technological development, but also from increasing multiculturality and etc., that we should be able to understand more and more complex issues. We should be able to teach at the university level more generalistic type of people, and again it doesn't mean that there is no enough certain specific knowledge when you leave the university, but on the other hand I think there is more increasing demand that you have to have some kind of more general view. And well, to say it shortly, I think that at least I hope so that already after 25 years, University of Turku is able to give, let's say, holistic view for the development of the Finnish society, and of course give its own parts also for the development of the whole world. But of course, we, being the oldest Finnish-speaking university, I think we have still this very important role to influence the development of the Finnish society.
Thank you. So actually, this kind of holistic, multidisciplinary approach, it's there and it's an important role, but I'm interpreting your answer also so that we are there is a challenge and need for science communication. So the role from university to society is also that we must be more and more able to communicate the research results and what we have learned. So this kind of connection maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there is more and more, which I think it is the right direction, that the university should be able to communicate with the rest of the society. I think it's important for us to remember that the society is not for us, but we are for the society.
Yes, and to conclude, one final question, last but not least, as we are celebrating now not only Finland Future Research Center's 25th anniversary, but whole Finland's 100th anniversary of independence. So I'd like to address the question of very long futures, still pushing a little bit further ideas. In Finnish Society for Future Studies, we have started addressing this question whether there are special techniques or different approaches that we have to use when we address really long futures. Of course, it gets always more demanding the longer the horizon is. But one substance question inside future studies is very topical, and considering your academic background from medicine, there is a topic of possibly extending human life expectancy and extension of these life expectancies from various techniques and methods. But you, from your academic background in medicine, how do you see, what possibilities does medicine see or anticipate for human life extension well beyond 100 years, 150, even 200 years?
That's difficult. But I think that if we look what has happened during the last 50 years, for instance, since the revolution in molecular biology and so on, I can easily imagine that with rather conventional ways and methods we can increase maybe life expectancy to, let's say, average. Now it is in Finland we have something like 84 years, or maybe easily to 100 years, around that. It is, I think that can be reached by living more healthier life and so on. On the other hand, then if we look beyond that, it is, I still prefer to think that there is a quite certain limit which is really due to the very basic characteristics of the biology, which will put the limit somewhere maybe 120 years plus minus something. And I think that it would be extremely difficult to overcome that, because still, even we are talking about this artificial intelligence and things like that, the biology is still very, very much more complicated than the best computers at the moment.
Yes, it's a complex issue. So, thank you very much, Rector and Professor Kalervo Väänänen, from this interview. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.